and go to India. Now, the ultimate aim of any conservation intervention is to improve the conservation status of your target species. And clearly, to assess whether this is happening, we need to regularly monitor the populations in question. Vultures have been monitored across northern and central India since 1992, initially as part of wider surveys of Indian raptors. However, following the first signs that vultures were undergoing big declines, dedicated vulture road transect surveys have been carried out at regular intervals since 2000. But the first concrete evidence that vultures were undergoing rapid population declines came from monitoring on a local scale, with Vibhu Prakash's PhD and subsequent studies at Keoladeo National Park near Bharatpur in Rajasthan. This included counting all the vulture nests in the park, and we have data shown here for white rump vulture. This colony actually went extinct the year after the last survey shown here. As a response to these declines, in the year 2000, road transect surveys across northern and central India were carried out, repeating the routes followed in 1992, but also extending the area covered. These surveys confirmed that the local declines that Vibhu had detected were being repeated across the country. The figure shows trends in the population index, which is an index of population density in any given year relative to that in the first survey in the early 1990s. And the index is on a logarithmic scale, so a value of 0.001 denotes a decline of 99.9%. And just to note that up until 2002, Indian and slender-billed vultures were considered the same species, long-billed vulture, and most of the figures here will refer to the long-billed. Now, a cause of these declines was, of course, diclofenac, and the drug was banned in 2006. These surveys showed that by this time, the populations of both long-billed and white rump vultures had already declined by more than 97%. But in the years since 2006, the ban on diclofenac had a notable impact, with the decline in the white rump vulture population being halted, and that of long-billed at least slowed. However, up until 2015, there'd been no evidence of an actual population recovery. So with the last survey done in 2015, the next one was due to be undertaken in 2019, but due first to logistical reasons and then COVID, these had to be postponed, which brings us to 2022. As with previous surveys, monitoring involved teams of surveyors driving on roads and tracks in and outside of protected areas. This year, or last year, the surveys covered a distance of over 16,000 kilometers, which is a big increase on the 6,000 kilometers covered in the original surveys in the early 1990s. Transects were carried out in a total of 13 states in north and central India, covering perhaps the core range of vultures in India. So what did the survey show in 2022? Well, not a great deal, really. The population stability of white rump vultures since 2007 has continued. And although there looks like there may have been a slight increase in the population of Indian and slender-billed vultures across all years, it looks as though these species too have remained stable, perhaps since 2003. And these conclusions are supported by looking at how annual population multiplication rates have changed over time. These rates have been averaged for each interval between a pair of surveys, with vertical lines showing 95% confidence intervals, and the horizontal dashed line indicating a multiplication rate of 1, that is, a stable population. So in the early 2000s, at the height of the Asian vulture crisis, not surprisingly, multiplication rates of all three species are all well below 1, indicating declining populations. However, multiplication rates between each subsequent pair of surveys all sit on or around the dashed line, indicating that the populations have remained stable, including the most current interval between 2015 and 2022. So to summarize, there is good and perhaps not so good news. Firstly, vultures have not gone extinct, which was a distinct possibility just 20 years ago. Not only that, though, the populations have stopped declining and have remained stable for over 15 years. In fact, pretty much since the ban on diclofenac. The results from 2022 show that this stability has continued. And this is testament to the work of both the Indian government and conservationists from Bombay Natural History Society in their fight to eliminate diclofenac from the vulture's environment. However, in contrast to what we've seen earlier in Nepal, there is no evidence of an actual population recovery. And this shows that there is clearly more to do, as the populations are still at precariously low levels and all species are still threatened with extinction. Thank you, Jake.